Hello everyone and welcome back to Scholars. I'm Gaurav. I'm here to take you through the ancient history for your civil services examination. So let's continue with our today's topic, that is Magad Empire. In the previous lectures, we learned how Magad emerged victorious amongst all of the 16 Mahajanapads. What were the causes of Magad's success? We also discussed about the dynasty which ruled over Magad, that is Haryanka dynasty. It was founded by Bimbisar. Bimbisar was succeeded by his son Ajatashatru. Ajatashatru followed the expansionist policies. He was able to bring Kaushal and Vaishali into Magad. Ajatashatru was succeeded by his son Udayin, who changed the capital of Magadhan Empire from Rajgir to Patliputra. In today's lecture, we'll read about the dynasties who succeeded Haranyaka dynasty or Haryanka dynasty. We'll further take a look at their social life, their material life, the army and taxation system, and social order. So let's continue. Now, Nag Dashak was the unworthy ruler. He was the last ruler of Haranyaka dynasty. So he got disgusted and elected Shishunag as the king. So this Shishunag dynasty succeeded Haranyaka dynasty. This Shishunag was the minister of Nag Dashak, who was the last ruler of Haranyaka dynasty. The most important development of Shishunag was the destruction of Avanti. He brought an end to a 100-year-old rivalry between Magad and Avanti. From the previous lecture, we know both the Magad and Avanti had access to iron and therefore they both were very strong. The rivalry between the two continued for around 100 years. This rivalry finally came to end under the rule of Shishunag. From now onwards, Avanti became a part of Magad rule. Shishunag was succeeded by Kalashok. He was also known as Kakavarna. Under his reign, Second Buddhist Council was convened in Vaishali in 383 BC, and this was 100 years after the First Buddhist Council. The First Buddhist Council was held in the year 483 BC. Let's look at the next dynasty, that is the Nanda dynasty. Now, one of the most important points is Nandas were the first non-Kshatriyas to rule over Magad. This Nanda dynasty was founded by Mahapadmananda. He is also known as Ugrasena because he had large army. He was also known as Sarvashatranta, that is uprooter of all Kshatriyas. Purans also call him Ekrat, that is the sole monarch. He is described as the first empire builder of Indian history. How do we come to know that he was called Ugrasena? Through Pali texts. Puran called him Ekrat or the sole monarch. I hope everything is clear. Let's continue. Now, Dhanananda was the last ruler of Nanda dynasty. This Dhanananda is probably identical with Agrames and Xantrames mentioned in Greek texts. So, we know that the Greeks invaded the northwestern frontier or the Gandhar region during the rule of Dhanananda. How? Because the Greek texts mention Xantrames or Agrames, which is identical with Dhanananda. Now, Alexander attacked Punjab during the reign of Dhanananda, but his huge army checked them from advancing towards Magad. We'll discuss about Alexander invasions in the classes to come, but till the point, just remember that the Nanda possessed huge army and they posed a serious threat to Alexander, and that is why he didn't advance towards the Magad Empire. He is believed to be an arrogant, oppressive ruler who imposed heavy taxes on common man. Dhanananda. This was Dhanananda who imposed heavy taxes on common man, and this developed a resentment among the subjects towards their ruler. His greed and exploitation made him quite unpopular among the masses. Ultimately, Chandragupta Maurya, under the able guidance of Kautilya, took the advantage of this public resentment and uprooted the Nandas and set up Mauryan rules. So Nanda was the last dynasty in the pre-Mauryan age. Now it is also said that Kautilya was humiliated by Dhanananda in his court, and that is why, as a revenge, he uprooted the Nanda rule and placed Chandragupta Maurya on the throne. So let's go through these dynasties once again. Nag Dashak was the last ruler of Haranyaka dynasty. He was succeeded by Shishunag. He was his minister. Shishunag was able to put an end to a 100-year-old rivalry between Magad and Avanti. Avanti now became a part of Magad rule. Shishunag was succeeded by Kakavarna or Kalashok. Under his reign, Second Buddhist Council convened in Vaishali in 383 BC. Shishunag dynasty was succeeded by Nanda dynasty. They were the first non-Kshatriya dynasty to rule over Magad. This dynasty was founded by Mahapadmananda. He was also known as Ugrasena in Pali text, that is the commander of large army. He was also known as Sarvashatrantak, that is uprooter of all Kshatriyas. Purans call him Ekrat, that is the sole monarch. He is described as the first empire builder of Indian history. Dhanananda was the last ruler of Nanda dynasty. Xantrames or Agrames are the name mentioned in Greek texts. They probably correspond to the Dhanananda. It is believed that the Alexander annexed Punjab, but the huge army of Nanda checked him from advancing towards Magad. He is believed to be arrogant and oppressive. He imposed heavy taxes on the common man, and this created resentment among the subjects towards their ruler. Taking advantage of this, Chandragupta Maurya, under the able guidance of Kautilya, uprooted the Nandas and set up Mauryan Empire. So I hope this chronology is clear. Haranyaka, one and the same thing. They were succeeded by Nandas and then started the empire or the Mauryan age. So let's continue and look at the material culture of Mahajanpad period. Now, the material life in North India, especially in eastern UP and Bihar, can be drawn on the basis of Pali text, Sanskrit Sutra literature in combination with archaeological material. So, on the basis of Pali text, Sanskrit Sutra and archaeological material, we get the idea of material life of people of Janpat period. Archaeologically, the 5th century BC marks the beginning of Northern Black Polished Ware, that is NBPW phase in Gangetic Plain, and this was very glossy and shiny type of pottery. So what was Northern Black Polished Ware? It was a glossy and shiny type of pottery. Now this is Northern Black Polished Ware. From now onwards, whenever we'll hear the term Northern Black Polished Ware phase, we'll correspond it to the Mahajanpat period, that is the period following the later Vedic age or the age of Buddha or the age of Gautam Buddha or Vardhaman Mahavira. So I think it's clear. Let's move on. This pottery was made up of very fine material and apparently served as a tableware for rich. In association with pottery, we have found iron implements, especially those meant for craft and agriculture. Iron implements were used in agriculture. They were also used to make weapons and arms. Another striking development of this phase was the beginning of use of metal money. Before the Janpat period came the later Vedic age, where the cattle was used for barter, and before that Indus Valley, where also barter system was used. In no phase we have witnessed the use of money. This was the first phase when we witnessed the use of metal money for the exchange of commodities. Another development was the use of bricks and ring walls began in this phase, that is the NBPW phase, that is in 3rd century BC. I hope everything is clear. Let's move on. Now NBPW phase starting around 1500 BC saw considerable increase in settlement and population. This increase in population was supported by agricultural surplus produced by the use of iron. So now can we say that iron became the basis of development? We'll read about how iron was the basis one by one in the coming lecture. The Northern Black Polished Ware phase marked the beginning of second urbanization in India. We have discussed that the Harappan civilization was the first phase of urbanization in India because it was the first time when the world witnessed large urban centers that were planned. Now, after the decline of Harappan civilization, India did not witness establishment of new towns for almost 1000 years. And this is why when the new towns appeared in Mahajanpad era, we called it the second urbanization in India. With the appearance of town in Middle Gangetic Basin in 5th century BC, a second urbanization began in India. Now, what were the developments? Houses were now made up of burnt bricks and wood. Now, because they naturally perished because of the moist condition in Middle Gangetic Basin. This is a rain-fed area. High rainfall might have rotten the wood and melted the mud bricks. Many towns were the seat of government, just like today, where the capital is the seat of government. At that time also towns were the seat of government. These towns came to be inhabited by artisans and merchants, and these towns eventually became a marketplace. Thus, there was a specialization in craft developed on the account of guild system. Now, what is this guild system? Guild system is the association of workers or peoples performing similar profession and craft. That is, if we say a guild of carpenters, all the people associated with it will be professing carpentry as their profession. This guild system marks the specialization in craft. We hear many guilds in the Mahajanpad period like that of Sewn, Potter's Guild, Smith's Guild. So we can say that specialization in craft developed in Mahajanpad period. Most of the cities were situated on river bank. Trade routes were connected through the course of river. Since most of the cities were situated on river bank, one can reach from one city to another just by following the course of river. And that is why the trade routes were situated beside rivers. I hope everything is clear up till now. Let's move on. Now the trade was facilitated by use of money. Which money? Metal money. It was made up of metal. The term Nishka and Satmanas in Vedic texts are taken to be the name of coin, but they seems to have been the prestigious object made up of metal. Since they were prestigious objects made up of metal, it was concluded they might be used as a medium of exchange, and that is why we say that Nishka and Satmana are the coins or the money that was used for the medium of exchange. Coin made up of metal first appear in the age of Gautam Buddha. The age of Gautam Buddha is the age of Mahajanapada period. Earlier, they were made up of silver, and few were also made up of copper. These coins that were produced in Mahajanapada period, they were called punched mark coins. Now this is the punch mark coin you can see here. These were called punch mark coins because they are punched with certain marks such as hill, tree, fish, bull, elephant and crescent. These were the shape that used to be punched on these punched mark coins. They are made up of silver, copper. Pali texts indicate plentiful use of money and shows that the coins were used to pay wages and buy commodities. Now buying commodities is the basic use of money, but they were also used to pay wages. After the end of Harappan culture, the another development this civilization saw was the art of writing. We have discussed that in the period before Mahajanapada period, that is the later Vedic period, the knowledge was shared through the word of mouth. That is, it was passed on from generation to generation via word of mouth, and we called it Shruti Gyan. The art of writing developed in Magad period. Now we'll see how this art of writing supported this period. The earliest record have been destroyed, probably because they were written on wood and similar perishable material. Now this art of writing led to the compilation not only of rituals and laws, but they also facilitated bookkeeping, which was essential from the point of view of trade, tax collection, and this trade and tax collection, when it was maintained and kept account of, they supported a large army and administration of Mahajanapada period. So I hope everything is clear. Let's just take a quick recap. Trade was facilitated by the use of money. Nishka and Satmanas were the coin used in Mahajanapada period. These coins were made up of metal. Which metal? Silver and copper. These coins were called punched mark coins because they were punched with marks of hill, trees, fish, bulls, etc. Now the Pali text also indicates the use of money. It was used to pay wages and buy commodities. The art of writing developed in this period. This art of writing enabled them to facilitate bookkeeping, which was essential from the point of view of trade and tax collection. This in turn, the trade collection and maintaining a book of records for tax collection helped them in maintaining a huge army and maintaining a good administration. So I hope it's clear. Let's move on and talk about the rural economy. Urbanization in mid-Gangetic basin would not have survived without a strong rural base. Why it is so? We'll look at it. How the urban centers and the rural centers complemented each other. Non-agriculturists living in towns had to be fed by agriculturalists living in villages. In return, these artisans and traders living in town made tools, cloths and other essential goods available to rural folks. So the agriculturalists living in village used to supply food to the non-agriculturalists in towns, and in return they used to provide them with tools which were used in agriculture and also clothes and essential items. The land was divided into cultivable plots. They were allotted to each family. Now fields were fenced and irrigation channels were dug. This was the first time when irrigation was used in agriculture. This was done collectively under the supervision of village headmen. Now also the fields were fenced. This shows the consolidation of private property. धन संचय करने का अब शुरुआत हो गई थी. The peasants had to pay 1/6 of their produce as tax. Taxes were collected directly by the royal agents, that is the agent which was directly appointed by the king. He used to collect the taxes. There were no intermediary landlords existed in between the peasants and the state. Technology became central to the progress of rural and urban economy. We know that the iron was the technology, the art of writing and the use of coin were the technologies that developed, and they supported the economy. It was the economy that provided subsistence not only to the direct producers but also to many others who were neither farmers nor artisans. For example, the army personnel were to be paid or they were fed out of the state exchequer. They were supported through the agricultural surplus produced by the villagers. This made the collection of taxes, that is the art of writing, use of technology, made the collection of taxes and maintenance of army possible on large term basis, and created a condition on which this large territorial state could be formed and sustained. So what were the technological development? The use of iron, the art of writing, and also the use of money. So I hope everything is clear. Let's move forward and look at the administration. King enjoyed the highest official status and special protection of his person and property. Since king was the sole monarch, he had some special privileges. The king was primarily a warlord who led his kingdom from victory to victory. This is well illustrated by the career of Bimbisara and Ajatashatru. Bimbisara expanded Magad by making matrimonial alliances. Ajatashatru followed the expansionist and aggressive policies, and he was able to consolidate Magad's position and bring more land under Magad. King was ruled with the aid of officials, both high and low. High officials were called Mahamantris, and they performed variety of functions such as those of modern day ministers. So the king was assisted by a council, but this is not a new development. We have witnessed the presence of council even in the early Vedic age. The high officials and ministers were recruited from the Brahmin priestly class, shows that the presence of Varna system was still there and it was still dominant. They were paid by the grant of revenue of cluster of villages. Okay, the beneficiaries were granted only the revenue and not the administration of authorities. These high officials, how they were paid? They were granted the revenue of cluster of villages, but they were not granted the administrative authority over this cluster of village. The rural administration was in the hand of village headman, which we call Gramini. The Gramini as a term lost its importance, and now the head of the village came to be known as village headman. The village headman assessed and collected taxes from villagers and also maintained law and order in his locality. Now, this village headman used to collect the taxes from the villagers. He was one amongst them, that is one of them, and that is why we do not say that he was an intermediary between them. He helped the royal in collecting taxes from the whole village. So I hope this slide is clear. Let's move forward and talk about army and taxation. Real increase in the power is indicated by formation of large professional army. Now we knew how the Nandas posed a serious threat to the Alexander's invasion. This is because they had 20,000 cavalrymen, 2 lakh infantry, 2,000 4-horse chariot, that is the chariots were driven by 4 horses, and about 6,000 elephants. Now this was the first time when the army of Alexander witnessed the elephants in their rivals' army. This gave Magadhans an edge over their rivals, the use of elephant. The large and long service army had to be fed by state exchequer. The warriors and the priests, that is the Kshatriyas and the Brahmins, were exempted from the payment of taxes, and this exemption was borne by the rest of the 2 Varnas, that is the Vaishyas and the Shudras. They used to pay the taxes. They were the prime taxpayers of this period. Bali, a voluntary payment, became a compulsory payment to be made by peasants. Officers called Bali Sadhaka were appointed to collect tax. So Bali, it was a voluntary payment in the later Vedic age. It became a compulsory payment in Mahajanapada period, and Bali Sadhaka were the officers appointed to collect it. It appears that 1/6 of the produce was collected as taxes. We have read this. Taxes were assessed and collected by royal agent with the help of village headman. This village headman was one amongst the villagers, so we cannot say that he was an oppressive force. The advent of writing helped them in assessment and collection of taxes. So I hope this is clear. Let's move on. Army and taxation. The artisans, apart from paying taxes, we read that the burden of taxation was borne by Vaishyas and Shudras. Apart from paying taxes, they used to also pay in labor. The artisans were made to work for a day in a month for king. The traders had to pay customs on the sale of their commodities. Tolls were collected by an officer known as Shulkika or Shulkadhyaksha. So this Shulkika or Shulkadhyaksh used to collect toll taxes. Territorial king discarded the Sabha and the Samiti. This was because now the nature of state was large, that is large states were there with large population, so conducting a Sabha or Samiti was practically not possible. Popular tribal assemblies had virtually disappeared in post-Vedic times, that is the time of Mahajanapada. Their places was taken by Varna and the caste group, therefore caste laws and customs were given due weightage by the writers of law book. Let's look at the political structure. Some of them had monarchical form of government, while other had republic. While there were a concentration of monarchies in the Gangetic plain, the republics were scattered in the foothills of Himalayas and northwestern India. We have read this and we have also seen in the previous lecture. In republic, the power of decision making in all the matters vested with the public representative, and all the matters used to be decided on majority basis, that is on the basis of vote. While in monarchy, king was the only supreme power and his decision was final. I hope this is clear. Let's move on and talk about the social order. Now the community, just like before, was divided into 4 orders, that is Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. Dharma Sutra therefore set out the duties of each of the 4 Varnas. Dharma Sutra was a text who used to set out the duties of each Varna. Now this Dharma Sutra considered that the higher the Varna, the purer it was, and the higher level of moral conduct should be expected from the upper Varnas. And its vice versa was also true, that from Shudras, the lower level of moral conduct was expected. Now all form of disabilities were imposed on Shudras. We have discussed that they were not allowed in the investiture ceremony, that is, they were not allowed to wear sacred threads, they were deprived of religious teachings, they were not allowed to recite Gayatri Mantra, so we can say that they were deprived of religious and legal rights. Civil and criminal laws set out in Dharma Sutra was administered by royal agents. I hope this is clear. Let's move on. Let's try to answer these questions. So match the following. Take up a few questions and try and answering this. Let's just discuss Mahamantras. They were the high ranking officials. Bali Sadakas, they were the tax collectors. Gahapati, they were the wealthy landlords. And Sethis, they were the rich merchants. So option D is correct. You could have also made out by knowing that Mahamantras were high ranking officials, as the A with option 3 is only in one of the options, that is D. So D is the correct option. Let's move on. Consider the following statements and mark the option which is correct. The founder king of Haranyaka dynasty was Bimbisar. Ajatshatu added Vaishali to his kingdom. Shishunak's greatest achievement was destruction of power of Avanti. Mahapadmananda took the title of Ekrat. So without wasting any time, let's just discuss. The founder of Haranyaka dynasty was Bimbisar. We have read this. Ajatshatu followed the expansionist aggressive policies. He engulfed Vaishali into the Magadhan Empire. This is also true. Shishunak's greatest achievement was destruction of power of Avanti. We have read this in this lecture. Mahapadmananda took the title of Ekrat. This is also true. So all of these are true. So option B is correct. I hope you liked the video. For more such videos, log on to Skholar. That will be all. Thank you.